let's get her on some more too and get her on sticks, okay? Okay, come on.
Late to the party again, boys! Superman decided to go in himself!
Let's get her back.
We decided that we were absolutely not going to put any hidden cuts in. You know, like there's all those films that have been made, but they've got some very clever invisible cuts. But we were like, no, this is one shot, and we are going to go for one shot, and we're not going to kind of entertain any talk of kind of secret hidden cuts. We established very early on that we were going to employ a much more theatrical approach to it. So we brought the guests in for an entire week and rehearsed them with the regs on the set without cameras. And then the second week, cameras came in and we started putting it together in sections and rehearsing it in sections. And then only in the third week did we start kind of running it all together.
One of the biggest challenges we had was where was our DOP, our director of photography, going to be in relation to the camera on the iris control, which is really, really important, opening and closing the iris for the camera. That was fine when we were in the hospital, but we had a whole driving sequence. Yep. Which, you know, and the iris won't communicate through any kind of metal. And there wasn't enough room on the ambulance to have him, as well as all the other people, technical people that we needed on the ambulance. And the house, the explosion, that was kind of easy. And once we'd gone in, once we'd come in on the ambulance with the patients and the paramedics, that was also pretty, it wasn't easy, but it was more straightforward. But the ambulance ride was the most challenging part of the episode, which is probably quite a surprise to people who watched it when it looked as seamless as it did. And we had to build a fake sort of divide in the ambulance so that so next to Ian, who's driving, is our sound our sound person, isn't it?
Yeah, it was or focus. I can't remember which one was who was in the front.
I can't remember.
I think it was sound or focus in the front. You know, that was a huge challenge. That whole thing, and I think we found one of those early challenges was not to let the technical stuff dictate how we were doing it, because that was the kind of tail wagging the dog.
Yeah. We have people vomiting in our episodes all the time, and we've got a girl that vomits in this episode, which you will have seen. How did we do that? How do you do that in one shot?
I mean, because normally you put a cut in, don't you? And obviously, kind of somebody puts vomit in their mouth and then vomits, and you know, we cut and clear it up. And then there was this whole kind of, oh no, when's she going to kind of put the vomit in her mouth, or the whatever it was, the chicken soup normally, but she's a vegan, so we couldn't use chicken soup. You know, it was all those little challenges.
We knew what camera we wanted to shoot on. We knew which format we wanted to shoot in. And then all of a sudden we didn't know if we'd have the battery capacity or the memory card capacity. We also, we didn't really know when we started this episode how many times we would have a chance to capture the whole thing, you know, to do it from beginning to end in one shot. And we structured it so we had a dress rehearsal on the Saturday of the first week. And then the second week, which is normally it takes 2 weeks to shoot an episode. So the first week was camera rehearsals, as John said, and then the second week was our week where we were going to push to capture the whole thing. But in fact, we did it 8 times, including the dress rehearsal. I think 8 times, and we recorded the dress rehearsal, and in you know, we didn't tell anybody. But John and I thought that the dress rehearsal would be a complete and utter shambles, and it wasn't. It went without a hitch. And what was really striking from that first run was when you're just watching it on that, how easy it looked.
We suddenly kind of went, oh, actually we are going to be able to do this. And then we were very glad that we pushed in terms of taking people upstairs and pushing the envelope on kind of what could be achieved within the one shot.
John and I literally have lost probably a day.
Yeah, talking about the sound, the drumsticks, and the kind of, whether it was interfering, whether it obscured, whether there's too much, too little, because the whole approach to sound had to be kind of different, because normally, you know, the background are asked to kind of mime, and everybody's has to be completely quiet, because then it helps with the cut, obviously. But there was obviously no cut.
The drumsticks that you see in the beginning, when you come in with the patient, a rubber. So the actor had to have rubber drumsticks so that they weren't too noisy, and then at some point they had to be replaced with balsa wood drumsticks because Louise has to snap them. And you know, we always worry because Louise broke the drumsticks over her thigh, didn't she? We thought, oh crikey, let's hope that the rubber ones are, and that never went wrong. But we had a lot of conversations about drumsticks.
Yeah. It became apparent very quickly that actually we certainly needed 2 cameramen to not only to share the load, but also to physical load, but also, you know, it's an incredible act of concentration, camera work, and just mentally kind of one gets tired. But then you're handheld, so how do you transfer the camera from one person to another and make it look very kind of smooth? And so we talked about kind of various moments, and I was very keen to have a shot that went over the top of the patient, and we suddenly thought, well, that's a great moment to hand over. And so you find in the episode, you go over the top, you're right over the top of him, and then Scott comes in and he takes it off him, and I don't think you can actually see unless you know that's where the camera's handed over. But of course then Scott, just because of the way the script fell, Scott was tasked with then he had the handheld backward up the stairs, and then he walks backward, and then he steps out over the balcony and kind of floats down. And so he was doing, and then we swap again during the fight, don't we? So he carries on from that moment into the fight, and then in the chaos of the fight, you hand back.
We had to get a heated eyepiece for the camera because where they were looking through the viewfinder, they were so hot the viewfinder was steaming up. You know, like your car does if you get really hot in your car. So we had to order this this viewfinder that was heated, which we'd never used before, and then we didn't know how much battery life that was going to take up. So we actually went for one of the takes, having got this brand new shiny sort of all singing all dancing heated viewfinder, not knowing if we'd have enough battery capacity to capture the whole thing. Everybody who was on the floor, so all of the assistant directors, some of the ancillary crew around cameras, sound, art department, everybody was actually in costumes. So we were seeing people that we work with all the time dressed as nurses or doctors. I mean, I think one of our sound guys actually he was so committed to looking like a member of the cast, he had a stethoscope on around his neck.
Yeah, added to the sense of occasion, I think.
Yes, it did. It made it feel different straight away.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.